What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Stereotherapy. I'm your host, Lisa, and this is episode 107. Today on the show, I was joined by vocalist Greg Molina from A Moment's Notice. I've been so excited to get this conversation out here ever since Greg and I sat down a couple weeks ago, and I was really excited when Joe from Overshadow reached out to me about getting Greg on the show. Immediately diving into A Moment's Notice, listening to it, yes, I need this on my show. I've been wanting to get heavier bands on, and I'm so glad A Moment's Notice is going to start that. I'm really excited to share that. And this was such a great conversation surrounding how going to a show for Greg opened up this path for him and going to this metal show. And it was one of those things that it just moments that he knew this is what I want to do. We touch on the wonderful music scene in Sacramento and how special that is to A Moment's Notice. And I loved hearing about that. We, of course, touch on their latest release and single, Silver Lining Pt.2, which just broke over 10,000 all-time streams. That is incredible. I'm so happy for the band and Greg. We also touch on how music has been an aid to Greg's mental health and the importance of bringing awareness to things like post-traumatic stress disorder and why that's important to Greg. And I think there's so many important things, and I can't thank Greg enough for the trust to talk about those things. I don't want to take any more time, but as always, all links below in our description. Make sure to go follow A Moment's Notice, all that good stuff. I want to send you their way, but let's just get into it. Here is my conversation with Greg Molina from A Moment's Notice. Thanks so much for taking time on a Saturday afternoon to come on here. I've been really excited to have, ever since Joe reached out, I was like, yes, I've been wanting some heavier music on here and to showcase that in a new band. So at least to us, right? You're not a new band, but
Right.
you're a new band to us and our listeners. I'm like, I want this. So I'm so excited.
Oh yeah. I mean, thanks for having me. Honestly, I'm really glad that Joe put us in a room together.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, he's great. So it's but the first question we ask everybody, because our podcast is the importance of music and mental health, I
Yeah.
would love to know. I know Linkin Park was one of your first CDs that you've owned. So I wanted to know, was it Hybrid Theory? Was it Meteora? Which Linkin Park album was your first one?
Actually, wow. I didn't even know you knew that. That's cool. Yeah. Actually, Hybrid Theory was the first one.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's same for me. That was my first one too. And something about even that video of crawling with like everything going in the sink, it's still to this day sticks with me. And
Oh yeah.
no matter what, and Chester just I mean, rest in peace, but like one of the greats ever
Oh yeah,
and
for sure.
changed so much. And I can only imagine you in the genre that you sing in to have someone like Chester.
Yeah.
It,
I think Chester was like, it wasn't just even Chester. Like it was a lot of like what they said in their lyrics and stuff. And then I really like I got into it, but then I think like Reanimation like kind of like
Mhm,
was like the thing that for me a lot of people kind of glance over that album for me. I don't know,
mhm,
like when I talk to people about it. And I think like the big thing about Reanimation that really captured me was it was a blend between rap and rock and
mhm.
a little bit of that EDM kind of like house kind of style, like electronic music. And I came from rap. So I listened to rap and then all of a sudden started getting into like rock. And I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. And I think
Yeah.
like there was just something truly special about them when they first started.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're so right about reanimation. I think everyone talks about the hybrid theory or Meteora or, just anything else, but reanimation is so overlooked. And to me, I'm like, yeah, back then it was so just revolutionary, that album and what they did. And I think there were a lot of people that maybe were more rap fans that were like, wait, what's this? And then same with like Linkin Park fans, like, oh, wait, let me get into the rap world. And it was, yeah, now I almost want to like go back and listen to it again because I haven't listened to that since it probably came out. So I mean,
Oh,
it's
wow.
it's been a hot minute. So now I'm like, all right, I got to put that on my radar a little bit. And
Definitely.
so would you say then Linkin Park was a big part of those first memories of falling in love with music, or were there other parts that kind of led you on your journey?
Linkin Park was like, I definitely will say that like they were a big part of it. But for me, I really I was resistant to this actually when I first listened to it. I wasn't like really into it. I was just kind of skating and listening to it. And a friend of mine actually showed me a band called Zayo. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh, this is interesting. And I was like, this is cool. But about a week later, he was like, hey, I know you got into this genre. Um, it's my cousin's birthday and we were all friends. So he was like, you want to go to her birthday party? But he didn't tell me her birthday party was going to a show.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up going to my first metal show, and it was actually Born of Osiris that got me like, they just hooked me. Like I was like, I want to do that. Like
Mm-hmm.
whatever that is, I'm here for that. Like that was so cool because Chester had his own uniqueness to him, but I was so much more into like the heaviest deathcore music, and then somehow
Mm-hmm.
did metalcore throughout it. And I just watched that show and was just like, I don't care what I got to do. I got to do that. Like that was so cool to me.
Oh, yeah, that's like at least like I have no musical bone in my body. I wish I did, but like I think about bands like that, at least for me, like obviously they're not metalcore and anyone would ever think of them that way, but like the band Thursday for me, I was a big post-hardcore kid,
Oh
and
yeah,
when I got into that and seeing bands like that, it was like I want to do like what I'm doing now. Like I want to work in music. I want to do that. So it's always interesting how there's always maybe that one, whether you saw them play or you listen to them, where they're like pulling you towards where you are today. Like that's so cool to have that moment, and especially something unexpected, right? Like you went to a show and like just having that experience that you still remember, it still means so much to you. So that's really
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it's actually kind of cool because I actually talked to Cameron, their drummer,
Hmm.
from time to time, and one of the bands that's actually on our record label is actually on tour with them right now. And so, like, I got to talk to Cameron more, and I've been getting closer with him, and it's kind of just a full circle moment for me because he was the drummer back then, and
Hmm.
now he's becoming a closer friend of mine as time goes on, and it's just kind of crazy to know. Like I don't let him forget that I'm like, dude, you're what started this. Actually, like you're the reason this started. I got into it, but seeing you guys live and watching Brace Legs into Bow Down, I was just like enamored by just hearing the transition, and I just was like, what? It was just so cool.
Yeah, I love full circle moments. Like those, like you treasure those. Like even doing this, I know, again, very different genre, but for me, the singer Anthony Green, he was like, I
Oh
love him
yeah,
so much. And we got to have him on our podcast and having that full circle moment, like you're describing, where you're like, yeah, you're the reason why I was like, I can do this. I want to be creative. I want to do that. Like those moments are so special. So anytime I hear someone else have a similar like full circle, it's like that's what it's about, and they're so treasured. And I love that you had that because it means so much, you know? It's one of those things
totally.
that you can't describe it. And obviously your band, you're from Sacramento, California. That's where you guys are based. And we don't have the closest I've gotten there. Well, it's not really close. California was like Southern California. I had Crossing I's, Dotting T's on.
Oh,
So
sick.
so yeah, oh, such a great band, great guys. And so for you, I want you to kind of take us to Sacramento. What about it, whether it was you growing up going to shows or even playing shows now for with your band, what is so special about Sacramento to you?
Man, this is a good one because we've talked about it on a few podcasts.
Hmm.
Sacramento is just, it doesn't, it's almost ineffable to a point because when you come to Sacramento, you have this impression that or preconceived notion if somebody talks to you about it. A lot of people in the Bay Area kind of think one way of Sacramento.
Hmm.
And a lot of people come here for shows, even back in the day. I mean, I played shows in a small town called Elk Grove outside of Sacramento. It's it's very like it's like a county almost of its own.
Hmm.
And I just remember going to shows and you could just post about it and you would have it sold out
Yeah.
and you're a local band and it doesn't make any sense. And you'd have people outside throwing like themselves around in a pit
Hmm.
in this little 150 cap building. And then there's another 150 people outside still listening through the glass windows. Like
Oh, so cool.
it's super special. The community out here is super tight knit. A lot of us are interwoven. We talk to each other a lot. The scene is really strong out here for music. It's kind of funny. You kind of see the same group of people, and like there's like little dashes of people here and there, and these friend groups, and you start to see them. And as of lately, like Sacramento, really, what's beautiful about it is that 2005 to 2009 emo scene phase is kind of coming back
Mm-hmm.
here. And I'm seeing all the scene kids and stuff, and I'm like, dude, this is so cool.
Yeah.
It's just,
Oh.
I grew up in that.
Mm-hmm.
I I went to high school with Corey LaQuay from A Skylit Drive. Like,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So it's like we record with Nick from A
Mm-hmm.
Skylit Drive as well, and it's just so cool to see like him and I in our 30s and like our mid 30s, and we're just like, yo, did you see the emo kids? He's like, yeah,
I
yeah,
know.
I did. I'm like, this is so cool.
Oh, yeah, and it's even like it's not even just the emo kids, right? At least I'm seeing like the hot topic emo kids, right? That are back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I remember that when I would go to shows and my friends that were all in like their hardcore bands and you would go in that style and just even me back in the day wearing that style, right? I'm like, I have to like if only I could get into my MySpace and get those pictures of my
Right. I
C
think that
days.
all the time.
I wish I could get back even my photo bucket, all that, because what a time. And it's pretty cool to hear like it is and see like I know when we were young is like the biggest like commercialized of it, but
Yeah.
it is coming back. Like it's here. And that's so
Oh
cool
yeah.
to hear that like even by you that it is a thing and it is happening. Even like here in New Jersey it's happening, but like other places like it is a thing. It is here for whatever reason 2025 it's here to stay.
I think a lot of these like bigger bands are really making that for us
Mhm.
because back in the day, well, we thought we used to watch MTV, so we had like the Under Oaths, As I
Mhm.
Lay Dying,
Yeah.
Trivium. Like we had all these like metal adjacent kind of bands, and metalcore wasn't really like a
Hmm.
thing. Post hardcore wasn't even really a thing. If you
Yeah.
really like, we just were everyone called it screamo,
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
that. But like we knew the subgenres, but everyone just heard screaming and they okay whatever, and they kind of
Hmm.
like dismissed it. But it's so cool to watch it kind of do what it's doing now and seeing it all kind of come back around as we get older. And like you said, the photo bucket, you took me back with the photo. I was like,
Ooh.
photo bucket was before Dropbox, was before all of that.
Oh.
I'm like, oh, it was such a
Oh.
simpler time.
It,
But it's nice to see it come back. And like we got to thank like Knock Loose and Spirit Box and
mm,
Turnstile, like
yeah.
whatever anybody wants to say about them.
Hmm.
I mean, Knock Loose is selling out Madison Square Garden and they're at the Grammys.
Yeah.
It's that representation for us, it's just so amazing. And I think a lot of it came from this revitalization with a lot of the younger crowd. And I got to say, a lot of that, I personally view it as Suicide Boys was actually the one that kind of helped it. They bridged
Hmm.
a gap.
Yeah.
And I gotta like, I see a lot of that crowd that listens to Suicide Boys coming to metal shows now. And I'm
Hmm.
like, this is cool. And it's a lot of the younger ones that are coming in, and we're starting to see that. And it, like a little bit of their style came into that. So we're seeing a lot of these like bands like Throne that have a little
Hmm.
bit more rap esque kind of feel to them, but they're metal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's cool because there's we're bridging the gaps between genres really well, and it's
Yeah.
just super neat to see.
Oh yeah, even like Knock Loose on Jimmy Kimmel, right? Like what world are we that we see that and it's and Brian hits that guttural and like he did that and you're like, what is that? Like what is this going on? Or
Right.
Spirit Box just releasing what they are. And I love to see it. And I think there are younger kids that don't get it, where to them they're just discovering Knocked Loose. And now they can hopefully go back in their catalog and be like, yes, you love this knocked loose, but go back to this one and see how they got here.
Right.
And I love that. So like I know a lot of people sometimes like to gatekeep. I'm like, no, in order for all this to thrive and bands like yours and other bands coming up, we need just no gatekeeping. We need people to like just come
Yeah.
together and be like, here, this is what's going on. And even talking about your band, I would love to know because like we kind of touched on it just in what we're talking about now is I feel like there's such a stigma and such a maybe some people a turn off of whether it's metalcore, deathcore, metal in general, where they'll just say, oh, they're just screaming, they're just yelling. I don't understand what they're saying. For you, what is so special about this project and you getting to process your emotions and whether performing and writing this music?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
For me, this band is so unique for me. Recording when I first started this band, I started as a solo project. I really had no intention of actually like making it a full-time band. I was just starting my barber career, so I was pretty happy and content with what I was doing, and I didn't feel like I needed anything, but I wanted to do it for fun. And so I kind of came back after about 13 years and decided like, okay, I'm going to try to figure this out. I came from like deathcore, so but I always loved metalcore. So
Hmm.
I was trying to figure out with our first two singles, Silver Lining and Endless Waltz, I was trying to figure out how I wanted to sound. What was I going for? At first it was kind of almost like a counterparts kind of knock loose sound with my
Hmm.
screaming. And then I tried to almost kind of be unarticulated with like you can't really understand what I'm saying in the second song. And I just didn't like either of those.
Hmm.
One was a little too straining on my voice, and one was almost just it wasn't a really good representation. And what made it stand out was we recorded a song called Offerings when the band was actually created. And I kind of found my voice in that song. And Offerings is so special to me because it was how we started, but it was also when I kind of found my style, my uniqueness. And I credit Nick a lot for that, actually. Nick and I spent a lot of time trying to figure out me, like my sound. And now he doesn't let me get away with it. He'll be
Hmm.
like, I need you to articulate. Like
Yeah.
these words need to come out. And so when you hear me scream now, a lot of people know the lyrics because I enunciate so well in
Hmm.
my vocals. But that was because like the execution that I had to have in every single articulated section, Nick made me do that. He was hammering me to do it. And Offerings kind of got me there. And as we've gotten further along this road, I've learned how to process my voice the way I wanted it to. And now I'm getting a little bit more creative with my vocal style. This band is just so unique because I think a lot of it is just so much growth. We have a lot of conversations after every show on tour. We push each other. We remind each other that this is a business, but it's also a lot of fun, and we're not just friends. We're like brothers now, and when anything happens with each other, we lean on each other as much as we can, with without getting into each other's personal lives, unless we're welcomed in. This band just is so special to me, and it shouldn't have happened, but it did, and I'm so grateful it did happen. And then getting signed right after that with Overshadow and having Joe as our manager, I still have a little bit of imposter syndrome now because it's like so much good has happened with this band and I'm still not used to it yet.
Hmm.
Like it's still not there yet. And even though we have all these accolades, it just hasn't processed for me yet.
Hmm.
And I think that's what makes this band so special is just because I always say more is required. I'm like, I just got to do more. I want to
Hmm.
do more, and I'm never really satisfied with what level I'm at because I'm like I'm still chasing that 15, 14-year-old kid who went and saw Born of Osiris and was like, okay, I played Boardwalk where I saw that show, but like now I got to go further. Like I owe it to that kid because he was dreaming, and so I'm like, this band's kind of starting to get there. So I'm like, I'm excited.
I love that. I think all of us, right? Whether it's creative, whether it's me doing the podcast, you and your band, or someone else out there doing a band, or whatever it is creatively, you almost do. You do all those things. You think of that 17-year-old kid, 15-year-old kid that said, like, hey, I want to do that. Like I had, like, as you said that, I was like, that's exactly how I felt when I sat down with Anthony Green, was like my 15-year-old, like, or 17-year-old self would be like, what is this? I can't believe
Right.
this. Now I got to go, and it's always when you have those dreams or you have those aspirations to go back to that self and think about, like, what would they think? Okay, well, what would they think if we now did this or did this and kept going? And I think it does. It just pushes you to keep going. And I love that. Like, I personally think your voice has so many layers to it, to where I know the genre as a whole, whether it's on, I don't, TikTok, like, so a band any day can post anything, like, and to each their own if that's you and that's your thing. But I
Yeah.
think sometimes when there's just it can be overcrowded in any genre these days, but like to hear your voice, like you were saying, where you enunciate, you can feel those lyrics, you can, and you feel what you're saying, and there's a purpose to like how you even, Silver Linings Part 2, how it opens up, right? And it grabs you instantly where it's like, whoa, what's this? Like, what's that?
No,
And I think that's what's so unique, I feel, and what will, even as a music listener, set you apart from the
thank
pack.
you.
So I loved that. And I loved even just hearing you say that. And yeah, I love when there's layers to a vocal. And it's like,
Oh yeah.
again, I love it. Like again, I went on that path, although I loved post-hardcore. I feel like I went everywhere where you did the emo stuff or maybe pop punk, then emo, whatever they want to call it, the screamo,
Yeah.
post-hardcore. And then somehow my trajectory, I ended up where I was like, now I'm listening to Lorna Shore. What am I doing? Like, how am I here? I don't know why I'm here. And I had somebody else on. It was their same thing where they said that. And I was like, there's something about Will Ramos, right? And like I
Right.
said, it's like it's wild to think where you go, where maybe you heard something when you were younger, where it was like maybe it was punk or whatever it is. And then now you're on this path of like, yeah, listening to Will Ramos. And I'm like, I love anything he touches and his, just presence. So I think yeah, just wild when you look back at all that and what you're achieving. And I know I was reading too about you that you did, and you mentioned it, like you took a break for a while with music. So I would love to know there's something special about when you go back to something and it was definitely probably your passion or calling, but maybe at the time you had to take that break for whatever reason, life happened. But then going back to it and now, like you said, like Overshadow and this latest single is doing well, it looks like. How is it now? Do you ever still now looking back at that and after taking the break, being back into it for a while, do you ever feel like, yeah, I was always supposed to be doing this. This is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. I think that was yeah. 13 years had to happen though. I think
Hmm.
that was a very important moment. I was living that like 18-year-old in a band party all the time kind of life, and I was so burnt out on it.
Hmm.
And I decided to go to the army for 7 years, and then I kind of got my degree and I just started working, and I wasn't really interested. And it's funny you mentioned Will Ramos because actually I did a Will Ramos cover of like Lorna Shore to the Hellfire,
Oh, wow. I'll have to check
and
that out.
I I took it down.
Oh, okay.
But I can email it to
Yes,
you.
would love to see it.
That actually was the reason why I got back, is
Mhm.
because a vocalist from another band kind of was like, "What are you doing?" And I was
Mhm.
like, "I just was joking around. I wanted to see if I still had it." And he was like,
Mhm.
"Well, you got it." Like
Mhm.
he's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And I just kind of sat there and I was like, I almost fought it for a while. I didn't know how badly I wanted to do it until Swanfest 2022. Jordan Blake, before he passed away, um, called me 24 hours before Swanfest and was like, "You're gonna go scream on stage with me." And I was like, "No, I'm not."
Hmm.
No, and this was a week before our first show,
Yeah.
and I guess this is like a long way of saying basically that moment that he got me to go up there set me up to realize that like this is what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
I am now chasing that same crowd, that same feeling. He gave me the confidence I needed to get up there because he made me do it in front of so many people, and then I played in front of my first show with this band in front of a sold out 350 cap room. And he made it known that if I could do that in front of thousands, that I could do it in front of 350, and just owned it. And
Hmm.
I owned it so much that it got more fun because there wasn't any fear anymore. I mean, there's anxieties and stuff, and there's like a lot of stress that goes with the day to days, but I wasn't worried about why I was doing it anymore. I knew why I was doing it because
Hmm.
he kind of reminded me in that moment, even though he put me in the most stressful situation he could,
Yeah. Oh.
that I was like, I forgot. I forgot this.
Hmm.
It had been the first time I had screamed on stage in 13 years. And
Wow.
he just goes, here,
Hmm.
5,000 people. And I was like, you're insane. This is crazy. And I didn't know how much of an impact that one gesture that he did to me was going to make. And now I'm like, yeah, I do feel like I was supposed to do this a long time ago. But I think the 13-year break and all the things that came with it had to happen.
Hmm.
They had to happen in order for me to be able to tell the stories and tell the parts of me that are so vulnerable. Like Silver Lining Part 2 is about my divorce.
Hmm.
I had to kind of have a lot of life before I could be the authentic version of myself in my lyrics now. The way that I feel and the way I present myself on stage and stuff. Like a lot of that had to happen. Like those were all canon events. I feel like they needed to happen for this story to be what it is now.
And it's wild to think about too. And I think some people maybe when they think whether it's a break or just life happening, right? And that, yes, for as bad as they can be and as hard as they can be, if they can create what you created in your music, or say someone does whatever it is creatively, like when you look back and you're like, for whatever reason, like this path had to happen this way. Maybe if it happened another way, who knows how it would be right now.
Right.
So
I,
that's,
I could
yeah.
have been in a way worse spot.
Mm-hmm.
I was already partying way too much, so I could have easily been one of those guys that dived into the party life. And that we've seen that time and time again with young artists, and they tend to do really terrible things somewhere down the line in their career.
Yeah.
And it's because of those things. And I realized I just didn't, I needed to subtract myself. So, and it was good. It was good for me. I'm very grateful I did that. And I had I guess, the foresight to realize that I needed to take a break away from everything and just refocus on my life.
Yeah. And I mean, even talking about Silver Linings Part 2, it came out what, January 24th, I think it was.
Yeah,
End
about
of
three
January.
weeks ago now.
So yeah, no, it's what I feel like 3 weeks is it's been like
It's
everything
been
in the
months.
world.
It
Like,
feels
yeah,
like
it's been months. But so for that, it's been out obviously now 3 weeks, not months. For some reason, I thought that was so far away. But so now, what are you most proud of now that it's been out and everyone can hear it? You have it out. What are you just so proud of having it out?
honestly, so like with this song, it was kind of, I think personally, that song I re-recorded 8 times.
Hmm.
I was so unhappy about that chorus. I retracked it about 8 times, and at one point, I was just like screaming and cussing in the studio, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And Nick's like, dude, it's all good. And I was like, it's just not working. It's just not. I was like, I don't know what's going on. And then I just was like, let's just do it the first way we did it. I was like, I feel like we just keep trying to change it and try to make it better, and it just nothing was working. And we were just trying to, we wanted to put the best version of us out because we said, all right, we're gonna take about 12 to I think it was like 14 months. We took a break off of releasing music, and I was like, we're just gonna stop. Like, we're not
Yeah.
gonna do anything. We're just gonna just focus on writing, and we're gonna finish this record. And at the time, we had other members in the band before Jesse fully joined the band. We didn't have a clear goal as to what we were doing. And with this song, I wanted to put our best foot forward in what we were doing. I wanted to give us the best chance. And I was really critical on this song. And it took, I think, me like 3-4 months with this song, just for the chorus. I just
Wow.
was so unhappy with it. And I refused to let it out until it was done. So I
Hmm.
was like, we're gonna finish the rest of the record. We started finishing the record. We're about to cap it off here in March. The first week of March, we're gonna finish it. It's completely done. But this song was, it was a lot of trials for me. I'm so happy it's out now and that it's so received well. It actually, it has helped us get the success that we've been looking for, but it came with so much hard work. Many
Yeah.
days in the studio wanting to pull my own hair out.
Oh, and I think I like that you said that too, because I think for me as a music listener or anyone listening too, that maybe isn't in a band, you'll hear a song, right? Like I hear it and I'm like, I really like this. It's just but not realizing what it probably took to get it to where we now hear it and almost like now appreciate that more and like, hey, it takes a lot more and I think I just listening to it, you can tell the time that was taken and that it just versus maybe something that you maybe wouldn't have cared as much, right? Like if you were someone that
Right.
was just like, hey, this is good enough. This is good. Because I'm like that even with when I do the podcast. If it's not like I will sit there and it has to be no one will see it won't see the light of day unless I'm like, all right, this is as good as I can get it and this is what I can do with the audio and everything. And I think that's really incredible to care that much. And you can tell that you care that much in putting out that product. But I love that I love when people explain that in the process because I think so many of us that listen to music don't understand that at all. I mean, I'll say I don't. Um,
No.
so
I mean, like
yeah.
Ollie Sykes is a great example of that. Ollie Sykes
hmm
refuses to let a song out
Yeah.
until it is like he's actually like people say it's like frustrating because they're like, dude, the song's good, and he's like,
hmm
no, it's
Yeah.
not. It's not there yet. And he has so much success too. Like we forget about Bring Me the Horizon used to be a deathcore band.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah, yeah, I know. Like, yeah, I think that's why even like when we talked about Knock Loose, people going back, if you're just hearing about Bring Me the Horizon, go back and listen to like when they started, when I first heard of them, completely different band. Again, they're so successful and great, and I love Ollie Sykes. He is like top tier bucket list to ever get to talk to and pick his brain. But I think that, yeah, that's wild to think about that
yeah,
how they started and where they're at today. And yeah, I've heard that about him. He's very much the perfectionist or whatever you want to call it. He's to
yeah,
even think about sitting here, that's another one. I'm like, now I got to go back and like now I got to dig back into that and I mean, even with the song too, you guys have a live video. I know it was like
right,
over the span, what, of 8 months and then three different
yeah,
shows you did
yeah,
to make it happen. And watching it, you see, I think it really does capture for those of like me, like in New Jersey, where, you know, right now I haven't seen you play. Hopefully one day that would be great. But I think, what was that like creating that and working to kind of get that to fit what the song is?
yeah. The song ends on a really interesting note for a lot of people, and I don't know if anybody put the correlation together, but it's a song about reflection.
hmm
It's a lot of reflecting, and at the end I actually say the words, in my reflection I point the blame.
hmm
But that isn't necessarily meaning towards me or my ex-wife. It's more like I point the blame in the situation that I had to reflect on everything and what really meant something to me and how I felt in those moments and conquering the storm and trying to feel like my voice is heard and the singing gang chant kind of thing. I wanted it to be so anthemic that when people heard it, they were just like, this is that song. It gives you
hmm
that Wild Eyes from Parkway Drive kind of feel where it really brings you together and
Yeah.
it builds this kind of community because I want to be able to have a crowd of people singing that and I'm not doing it.
hmm
And then I can just scream and do that. But I think the video, our friend Troy, he actually drove from Los Angeles 3 different sets. So he came up 3 different times to do this and he did a really really great job of capturing what our music meant to our scene.
hmm
It's very unique to us because it shows you how our crowd is engaging with us, how they're
hmm
having fun, being themselves, enjoying our music to the fullest, and then also seeing us on stage and how we are and how we interact. There's one part where I'm actually grabbing somebody's hand and I'm holding it like
hmm
and I connect with my fans. They're so incredible because they've gotten us here. And I never forget being the kid from Elk Grove who played at a little like church in a metalcore band in front of only 30 people
hmm
or being on tour and having kind of a rougher day. And I love everything about this video and the process that it was because when I watched it, I didn't get to see any of it. It just
Yeah.
he's like, it's done, and he
Yeah.
emailed it to me, and I watched it and I cried
Hmm.
because it was like that was them. That's our fans. Like
Hmm.
those are our active people that are going out and they're throwing down and they're doing all this. And I'm hearing the way it transitioned. And he did such a great job of when the gang chant singing happens. It's like I'm watching people just be so into the music, and I personally as somebody in this band, I just felt an overwhelming like amount of love at that moment to watch 8 months of shows in one video
Yeah.
and seeing how people, because I can't usually see anything. I can't
Hmm.
see it all.
Yeah.
And it was so special. Like this song is very special. I think it'll always be special to me. Just basically because of like everything that got put into it. It was us kind of being like, "Hey, we're here, and I hope you like it. Like we're back." And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just so interesting. I don't really know how to explain it. This song is just it's something really truly special to me.
Yeah, and you can tell in that video, like everything you're describing, like me watching it, right? It brought me back to those bands that I would see on a local level and be in those small rooms of like, yeah, that was just us, like growing up, and that's what was going on. And again, like how you held out your hand, and I remember seeing that and like, what a great just kind of representation of you guys and who you are, what your show's about, what the community, right? Because and what's that's about from a video. And yes, I'm sure a lot of work to capture that in each moment. But it's like, yeah, like what just again, I just thought like what a great representation of this is who we are. This is a moment's notice. This is what we are. If you come see us, like this is what you can be a part of. So I loved it. I was like, how cool. But yeah, then hearing an 8 month three different shows and piecing that together. And I can understand like someone like you being in the band and this is you living it from the different standpoint of being the person singing the songs and doing that and then getting to see the crowd and see how everybody is in that video. I can see why that would bring you to tears for sure because it's there and now you can see it and witness it from a different like point of view.
Yeah, it's just real.
Yeah.
Like I feel like as an artist sometimes we get a little detached from the crowd because of lights and all the other stuff, and sometimes we get a little overwhelmed. But to like watch the video and reflect and watch how these people interact with us, I was just like, thanks. Like I don't know what to say other than thank you. Like we were just this local band, and we still are this local band trying to get out of the regional market and try to get on our first national tour. And just seeing how loved we were by people, it humbled me to know that like we have so much more to do for these people because they believe in us so much, and it showed in that video. And
Hmm.
I'm like, I owe it to them to like be a little bit of the hometown hero in a sense, like try to be the next one to get out of here and go do it on the national level, but like never forget those people that like brought us here and
Hmm.
remind them like, thanks, like you're the reason we got here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that video is always going to be special to me because of that. And I hope that when we hit the national market and we start doing more national tours and stuff, like people go back and look at that video and are just like, they're they're about their community.
Yeah. And especially like in times when the world is the way it is today. However, anyone is going, so many people are going through so much now. You need that sense of community and to know there is community out there. And yeah, I'm going to make sure to link everything, the songs, the video, everything, like send people their way. And obviously, our podcast is the importance of music and mental health and diving in. I'm like, which one can I really pinpoint? I mean, there's so many, but I know I saw you talk about Endless Waltz and how it honed in on trauma. And again, one thing I love that you have said too is you never want to just interpret your song. This is about this. This is about that. You want your listener, which I think when you were talking about silver linings and reflection and getting that, and that's something we can all relate to with Endless Waltz, and you touched on kind of bringing awareness to things like PTSD, and how people really don't understand sometimes what's going on with all of us. How important is that for you, whether in your music or using your platform to kind of talk about those things?
I genuinely feel like a lot, like being a veteran, a lot of people don't really want to talk about the the harsh reality of the world.
Hmm.
It's I have seen a lot of terrible things and a lot of things that I will probably never forget in my life. And it does chip at a person's soul a little bit. You know, we used to have a term when we were in the army that, you know, every time you went out of the wire, a piece of you stays there. And
Hmm.
it's, you know, you leave a piece of humanity out there. And it's hard on a human being to put their body and their mind through that. And it takes a lot of therapy, a lot of like growth. And I want to be a representation of like conquering my own PTSD and my anxiety and my depression, and like tell people like you can talk to me about that stuff. Like those things are important to me because I'm still actively working on it every day, and I still have a lot of things I don't care about myself that I wish I could do better.
Hmm.
And I'm a big advocate of going to therapy, reading, trying to educate yourself. Like I'm not the best at doing all of it. I will be honest. I struggle to stay motivated in a lot of ways, but I'll have my spurts, and I have to kind of remember that it's a marathon, not a race.
Hmm.
And when you're talking about PTSD and mental health and stuff, it's you got to give yourself a little bit of that grace and realize like, you know, it's like somebody going to the gym. They go to the gym and they go for a week and then they burn out and they're like, oh, I failed. You didn't fail. It's just you just took a break and now you're back at it.
Hmm.
And you get back into your rhythm, and you are going to have that depressive episode, that PTSD episode. You're going to have those moments. Handle it with a little grace though. Like it's okay to have those. Like we all have those moments. Somebody cuts us off on the road and we get mad. Well, we lost our temper and we didn't want to do that, but it just happens. And we have to have that much level of grace when it comes to those things. And I want to be an advocate for that always.
It's so important for people to hear, and even me hearing, like I struggle in my mental health. That's kind of when I started this as what has helped me the most. Yes, like therapy, I do, and things like that, and always working out to try and help that. But music has been that way for me, and there's that intersection. And I think even me hearing, like, give yourself grace. Because a few weeks ago, I was going through a really difficult time, and I wasn't giving myself that grace of, like, hey, it's okay. Like, it's okay what you're feeling. It's okay that you maybe now it's not the healthiest that you would only want to sit on your couch for a little bit and not get up. But I did get up. I did do that. And to give that grace and say, hey, at that moment, maybe I needed that.
Yeah.
And again, like, thank you so, I appreciate you, like, and thank you for your service as well. Like, I can't imagine what you've seen and what you've had to endure during that because we hear all the time when our military or just what you have probably seen. And like you said, things stay with you.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you being open with that because I'm sure that's not an easy thing to be open, especially on a podcast, right? Too. And
Right. Yeah.
truly appreciate that because I'm sure there's someone out there that whether they know someone or they themselves, they'll really resonate with that a lot.
Yeah. I just want to remind people to like, if you have a goal or a dream or you have something, like don't let the fear like take over, because that's what it is. And it's so easy. It's so easy to just drop into that. And like I could have been just completely the most angry, pissed off person ever because of everything I've gone through, but I just couldn't live like that the rest of my life.
Hmm.
I just couldn't be mad about everything all the time. I have to let things go, and I have to just again give myself grace. And I hope that people hear this and realize like, damn, I went through some stuff too, like that. And then it's
Hmm.
like I'm not always the most available to talk to, but when I am, I like to have these conversations with people and just be like, it's okay, dude. It's okay to feel that way. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be furious with somebody, and just it's okay. Like we
Hmm.
all have to realize it is okay, because at the end of the day, we survived 100% of our worst days.
Hmm.
The next one is just going to be the next one, and we're just going to have to go from there.
Oh, I love the way you put that because it is so true. And I think so many of us forget that, right? When you're going through it, that we have survived those worst days, what we thought was our worst days, and to keep going. And I appreciate what you said there. And obviously, I can't believe 2025, here we are, and you guys are in that new era. I know there's an album on the way, correct? It's in
Yes.
the works. Whatever you can share before I let you go. What are you excited about this year? And can you tell us anything about the album on the way?
Yeah, actually, this is the first time I get to talk about this album, so I think I'm going to actually hint at this, and whoever does listen to this, you guys are getting pretty much you're getting the goods
All
because
right.
I'm not telling anybody else this right now. This album is called Fear and Loathing. It is about the duality of your own fears. It is the loathing of what people don't have or do have that you would want in life. And it is also our own way of saying this is the end of metalcore for us. As the album progresses, you will understand the emotions start to get a little bit more intense. They get a little bit more angry. They get a little bit more pissed off. They start to really, it starts out really complex and it's going to end even more complex. And it's going to start bridging the gap of us playing with so many of these heavier bands. We've always been the heavier metalcore band, but we're just diving into that now. And as this album grows on you and you listen to it and you digest the lyrics, you're going to see a pattern of I'm conquering so many things and then I'm saying enough is enough at the end. It's just enough is enough. I am going to be 100% authentically me and ourselves as a band. And we have hinted at it for years. And we, I think, are finally going to step into the realm of where we want to be as artists. And with Fear and Loathing ending, more will come. But we are very excited about this record being done and moving on to our next record after that.
Oh yeah, hearing you talk about it, I'm like, all right, when is this gonna come? I mean, I know we can't, do that. I mean, it's too soon to say, but that's, and I think that's needed right now, right? When like right now, when the state of how things are, I think you need music and you need that, and what a message to have out there. And I'm so excited to hear it now. I really am, and I see what's next for you guys in this new year. I mean, we're at the start of it, so I feel like there's so much that can probably happen for you guys this year, and I hope does. And yeah, I'm just excited. I'm excited to push this out there as well and get some more people your way because I'm like, I want to do that with this podcast and get you guys some more people your way.
I appreciate that so much. Like we've been through it all, and we're
Hmm.
gonna keep having our own hurdles, and we're just grateful that we have any time with anybody to talk about our story. And I thank you for your time as well. Like, this is probably one of my favorite things to do. I'm actually starting a podcast,
Oh,
like starting soon, and this is what I enjoy. I enjoy talking shop about music and getting to know new people, and I guess that's why I'm a barber too. I like
yeah.
to meet people. So
Yeah, no, so that fits exactly. Oh, yeah. Oh, well, good luck on your podcast. Like, what is it? Do you have a page? Do you have anything I can send? Or is that,
we're right now it's Soul Kerr from Traders and we're starting to film it. We're gonna get a catalog together and then we'll be starting our podcast called Make Your Mark. And I guess this is my soft launch of that, saying it.
oh, hey, you need a good name too, and that sticks. So that's awesome. And yeah, what a time to start a podcast. And especially like you said, like you're a barber. No wonder you were so easy to talk to too. And again, you never know some people, everyone has different personalities, but like the minute you came in, I'm like, okay, great. Like I can tell like he likes to talk about this stuff and what he's passionate about. So it was really great. So I thank you so much. And all right, guys, that was my conversation with Greg. Again, such a great conversation. Immediately when he came in Zoom, I knew this was going to be a great conversation. You could just tell the light in his eyes, talking about Sacramento, talking about his band, and the importance of that. And that's what this podcast is all about. So I also want to shout out Joe again of Overshadow for the trust and recommending Greg because this was one of my favorite conversations. Again, like I said earlier, all links below. Go follow A Moment's Notice, go check them out, and then let me know what your favorite song is because I'm telling you, this band is one to watch, and I'm really excited that my show got to have this conversation. As for our show, if you are liking this show, even just a little bit, make sure to follow and subscribe to the show. You never know who we will be having as a guest, as well as a positive rating and review. It's the easiest way to support an independent show like ours. It truly goes a long way. It takes 2 seconds, so it would mean a lot to Justine and I really appreciate you guys doing that. We will be back next week with another great conversation. I can't wait to have that one out as well. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.